Hey team, in this training, we are going to be going over the foundational macro strategic understanding of what a payment processor is and exactly why you need it. Now, again, we go over this so that way when we get to the tactical, once we actually get into the nitty gritty of what you actually do, you know exactly why you are doing what it is that you are doing. Okay, so if you were to go ahead and ask the top business owners, hey, what are some of the most important systems and operations that exist inside of your company? Without a doubt, not only our own answer, but many of the top business owners' answers would also be that, hey, being able to accept credit card payments is one of the most important systems in a professional business's operations. Okay. And so here's the thing. If we had no way, if we or any other business owner had no way to be able to accept money, then literally the company would run out of oxygen. Okay. And so not just any money, right? We're not just talking about, hey, can you accept cash or can you accept, here and there? No. In today's world, right, we are talking about being able to specifically accept credit card payments. Okay, literally in the modern marketplace today, it is mandatory that if you want to be able to function as a legitimate professional business, you must be able to accept credit cards. Okay, this is how the entire world works. And obviously, when I say credit cards, debit cards are included in there, right? The ability to accept cards in some way, shape, or form. And that does also now include, as the modern marketplace expands, we're talking about Apple Pay, Google Pay, all of these are extensions of that same system, right? And so here's the thing. If you are out here asking for PayPal or Zelle or checks or bank wires or cash or any of these other forms of payment in today's world, like, you got to ask yourself, is that what a professional business is doing, right? When you go to Walmart, when you go to Costco, when you go to any professional business, are they like, hey, can you Zelle at me, or can you PayPal me? And then that way, you pay the cashier and then the cashier gives it to Walmart or something? Of course not, right? That's not how a professional business is actually going to work. And so if you want people to be able to pay for things quickly and easily, right? Whether that be over the phone, whether that be over Zoom, whether that be even in person, you gotta be able to send them an invoice. You gotta be able to collect credit card information, especially if you're gonna have a recurring subscription to something, right? If you're gonna be running a membership, if you're gonna be having any of that, you ought to also be able to have a legitimate way that is legit, that is actually safe, in order to be able to save their credit card information so that way it can actually charge their credit card ongoing. All of these are features that are required in order to run a modern business, right? You don't want your customers having to figure out, hey, how do I PayPal you or Cash App you or Zelle you or any of that kind of stuff, right? Especially because if you're using PayPal, Zelle, Cash App for personal account purposes, that's actually against the terms of service of those actual companies. And so you can actually get shut down, and then that way they will hold your funds as well. Okay, so to this day, I am absolutely shocked when I hear somebody who is trying to be a business owner. Okay, we're talking about professional business owner. We're not talking about a entrepreneur who's trying to cut corners here and there. We're talking about a professional entrepreneur, professional business owner, and they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm signing up for PayPal, or I'm having people send me on my Zelle or my WhatsApp, or all this other stuff. It makes absolutely no sense. Okay, so here's the truth. We're gonna go ahead and walk you through this in terms of, hey, what is a payment processor? What is a payment terminal? And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the big leagues of actually running a professional business, because we're gonna walk you through exactly how all of this works. Okay, so two biggest benefits when it comes to getting your payment set up. Okay, so there's gonna be multiple parts of this. This specific training is gonna be talking about the actual payment processor, and then in the next section, we're gonna be talking about the payment terminal, right? But the benefits of this is that your ability to go ahead and actually ask for payment immediately, right? So you can actually save time and seal the deal. So rather that be when the prospect is in front of you, if you're doing sales calls, maybe you're not doing sales calls, if you're running a community model, there's so many different ways to do business. But the point being is that when the person has agreed to sign up, it's not like, hey, can you wire me something? Or hey, can you figure out how to log into your Zelle and then send it to me on your personal or my PayPal or whatever? You're being able to go ahead and seal the deal right there. And then you're also allowing your prospects, if you're in a B2C space, right? You're dealing with customers, you're dealing with clients directly. You're not in B2B. B2B is like enterprise. You're dealing with, corporations, businesses, XYZ, right? That's not your clientele. You're talking about, hey, I actually have customers. I have specific clients. Then especially consumers, nowadays, it's not unheard of for people to actually be able to go ahead and use credit. Now, obviously, for some people, you might have different ideas like, hey, you know what? I would never put up something on credit, XYZ, but you are not making that decision for your customers, right? A customer gets to decide their own finances. And if they want to be able to put something on credit and they got a system and they pay it off and all this stuff, right? That's totally up to them. But a lot of people nowadays, it is very common for people to just put it on credit, and as well as many other benefits in terms of being able to accept credit cards, debit cards, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and all of that. Okay, now, before we actually get into the tactical, because that's exactly what's going to happen in the very next training when we talk about how to actually go through and set up your payment processor, I do want to also go ahead and make it clear that credit card companies do also have processing fees. Okay, so I want to go ahead and make this very, very clear. So if there's any newbie beginner business owners who are out there, newbie beginner entrepreneurs, and they're very careful to not become entrepreneurs, because here's the thing. These credit card companies, how they make their money is that when you go ahead, or when the customer goes ahead and charges a card, there is a 2 to 3% transaction fee. Now, what ends up happening is that newbie beginner owners who want to go ahead and cut corners and they just want to go ahead and save every nickel and dime, everything. That's the reason why small business owners stay small, is because they think small and they think, oh, you know what? I'm going to try to save the 2 to 3% here. Well, okay, there's a reason why the big businesses are using the big providers, because of the fact that they got big because they think big. Okay. And so that's why I want to go ahead and make it very clear is that if there is a single small business owner who's like, oh, you know what? I don't want to have to accept credit cards or use a payment processor because, there's a fee. Well, in that case, I really don't know what to tell you, right? Like, it's like no comment. Honestly, it's like really the value that you are going to be able to get from being able to accept credit cards, to be able to process payments properly, is much more worth than the 2 or 3% that you would save, right? In terms of being able to widen your market, your ability to be able to accept payments from somebody who you normally would not have been able to do, right? Being able to increase your closing call percentage because you can accept the payments right there and then, right? Being able to save a huge amount of time because of the fact that you're able to go ahead and not have to worry about, oh, I'm having to collect cash and check and all this stuff, right? As well as being legally compliant because you're not using your personal Cash App or your Zelle or your PayPal and all this kind of stuff in order to actually collect money, right? So the value that you're going to get from accepting credit cards, trust me, far exceeds that small percentage that you are going to pay. It is absolutely a no-brainer for somebody who's going to be a professional business owner. So I just want to go ahead and make that absolutely clear when we talk about credit card processing fees, what they are and how they work. Okay, next, let's go ahead and talk about the payment processor. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk in just a second. We're going to talk about the difference between a payment processor and a payment terminal. These are two terms that you want to go ahead and start to become familiar with as a business owner. But what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to walk you through setting up your payment processor, which is going to be what we recommend right now, at least. The big player in the space is Stripe. Okay, it is one of by far the easiest to use and the easiest to go ahead and get set up, and honestly, one of the largest around the entire world. And again, we don't use PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, all these, because they're mainly used for personal uses, right? You can only kind of accept payments from your contacts, and it's not like you're actually a professional business that way. And I remember I was on a sales call a long time ago with a client, and one of the customers was like, hey, can I, Venmo you? And then you can just give it to NutriFit Wellness, which was our wellness coaching company at that time. And, I was on the line with the customer. And I was like, you know what? This customer is trying to diminish our organization. I was like, yo, when you go to Walmart, tell the person who's checking you out, the cashier, do you think, hey cashier, can I Venmo you so that way you can just give the money to Walmart on my behalf to the groceries? And so that was a good image for us. That was a good sign for us that we needed to go ahead and further legitimize ourselves to say, hey, you know what? We're a legitimate organization here, right? And so that's the reason why we use a payment processor, and the payment processor that we are going to go ahead and walk you through is going to be setting up Stripe. Now, if you are outside of the US or Canada, Stripe, I don't know, they're expanding all the time if it's going to be there or not. However, you can just go ahead and Google Stripe alternatives, and there are many that are out there. Now, I do want to also go ahead and make it clear, Stripe is not the only payment processor that is out there. However, Stripe, especially if you're just getting started off as a new beginner business owner, it is going to be one of the easiest to go ahead and get set up, and that's exactly the reason why we do recommend it, and that's the reason why we're going to go ahead and walk you through that. Now, before we get into that, and we're going to go ahead and close this quick training out here very quickly, is that I do want to go ahead and walk you through what a payment terminal is, okay? Because once you have your payment processor set up, which is going to be Stripe, and we'll walk you through that in just a second, you are then also going to need a payment terminal. Now, those are two different things, okay? What happens is that your payment terminal sits on top of your payment processor. So in this case, if you're going to go ahead and proceed with Stripe, Stripe is going to be the payment processor, but then the payment terminal, that is going to actually be the point of sale, the POS system, right? That's kind of like where do you send the invoice from? How do you manage the customer data? How do you store that customer data, okay? It's kind of like when you go to the store and you swipe the card, that's the terminal, okay? That's the terminal that you actually go ahead and swipe the card on, and then the payment processor is behind the scenes that is then further processing that payment. And so what we're going to be doing in this section of the training is we're going to be going ahead and helping you set up your payment processor. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is in the next section, we're going to go ahead and help you set up your invoicing software and your payment terminal. So that way it's very easy for you to be able to go ahead and send invoices out, especially if you're going to be doing anything that is high ticket, right? So traditionally, if you're doing something that's a little bit more low ticket, then you can get away with having more of a traditional payment terminal, right? And we'll walk you through all of that is and the invoicing and all that kind of stuff, legal agreements, all of that is upcoming. But I just want you to know that there is a difference between the payment processor and the payment terminal and the reason why you are going to need both, okay? So for right now, we're going to only primarily focus on getting your payment processor set up, and then we'll worry about the payment terminal next, okay? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the payment processor macro strategic overview explained. That's just a fancy way in order to just say we want to go ahead and give you an understanding of exactly what and why this is important before we actually get into the tactical side of getting this set up. So with that being said, we will catch you in the next training. All right, welcome to this quick mini training that's going to walk you through the step-by-step instructions of being able to set up your payment system. We're going to go ahead and break this down into multiple parts because there are multiple systems that you need to set up. Okay, so part number one is going to be all about creating your Stripe payment processor account. Okay, so how you're going to go ahead and do this is you are going to go over to stripe.com and you are going to go ahead and click on Start Now, and then it's going to go ahead and walk you through a process in order to actually go ahead and create your Stripe account. When you actually go ahead and click on Start Now, what's going to happen is it's going to take you over to a screen that looks like this. And all you got to do is just fill in the basic information on there. And then it's going to go ahead and walk you through how to be able to actually create your account. You can also then verify your email address. Okay, now, quick point on here. Email address right here. Does this have to be my business email, right? Here's the thing. Don't sweat the small things. To this day, my main Stripe login is set up under my personal email address. And so it doesn't really even matter. So don't stress about it, okay? So email, full name, country, you're going to see on here, like we talked about inside of the main training. They have plenty of countries that are on here. Canada's on here. Denmark is on here. Croatia's on here. Like pretty much every major country in the entire world is on here. And then obviously there are alternatives that exist out there as well, okay? So what's going to happen is that once you go through this process, what's going to happen is that you are going to have to verify your email address. You see, we went ahead and created a demo account on there. And then once you actually go ahead and log in, then you're going to have to go ahead and activate your account. Now, this is going to be very important. You're going to have to fill in information in order to activate your account. It's not like, oh, I made an account and all of a sudden I can process payments. There's an entire process for that. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the screen right now that's going to walk you through what that process looks like. All right, so here we are. So what happens is that once you make your Stripe account, okay, once you actually go ahead and create it, and then once you actually go ahead and activate it, there's going to be an option that says, activate payments, or if you got to log back in, it'll say something like continue activating or something along those lines. And it's going to take you over to a form that looks like this, in which you're going to have to verify your business. You're going to have to add your bank, secure your account, add any extras, and review and finish. So I'm going to walk you through this so that way we can go ahead and do it step by step and really over deliver for you and walk you through this so that way you don't actually get stuck. Okay, so what are the steps for this? Number one on here, you're going to go ahead and verify your business. The reason why they ask these questions is because there is legality around this. Not everybody and their grandma can just go ahead and process payments. So you got to verify your business. Okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to be here where it's going to be business type. So you're going to put your business location. You're going to go ahead and put type of company. Most likely is going to be a company on here. So it's not going to be individual, nonprofit, it's going to be company. And then there is going to be business structure. And this is where you're going to see sole prop, single member LLC, multi-member LLC, private partnership, private corporation, or other, I'm not sure, right? So for most of you, based off the options, it's either going to be a sole prop or it's going to be a single member LLC. A multi-member LLC is where you have more than one owner inside of the LLC, like a partnership or, multi-owner or something like that. For most of you, it's going to be a single member LLC, right? And so that is why it's so important to make sure that you do the previous steps, because if you are going to be registering in an LLC, it's going to be very important to make sure that you have all of that information set up with your EIN number and everything that our partner is going to help you with. So that way you have that offer and they're going to help you make sure that you are rocking and rolling with that. Okay. And then in terms of a private corporation, that is going to be typically something that's like an LLC with an S election or something like that. Okay. So what you're going to go ahead and do, I'm going to walk you through what this looks like on the sole prop side, and then we'll come back and look at what it looks like on the LLC side. Okay. So sole prop, company, United States, continue. And then you're going to see on the next screen here where it's going to go ahead and ask you for your legal business name. Now, inside of the actual guide for this training, I am not going to go through step by step, line by line. I'm going to go ahead and give you an overview, but then all of the step by step instructions are in the guide that you can follow along as well. So that way, if I miss anything that I'm going over here, you want to make sure that you reference the guide for that. Okay. So on here, legal business name, that's going to be the legal business name of that, whatever you have registered with the state. If you are a sole prop, this is going to be your first and your last name, because remember, you are the business. Okay. EIN. Now, EIN, you're going to notice that this says that if you use your social security number for tax business purposes, you can enter that instead, because remember, we're talking about a sole prop. And so a sole prop is going to allow you to use your SSN everywhere else, right? And so that's why you're going to be going ahead and entering that on here. Again, remember, if you are having that complimentary LLC done for you, this is all going to be a part of the packet that they give you. So that way you don't have to go to the IRS's website and figure out how to get an EIN and all that kind of stuff. Okay. That's for the LLC. And then for the sole prop, you're going to be able to use your SSN. Doing business as, that's if you have a DBA. Registered business address, that's going to be the same address that you had above, right? Registered business address there. And then in terms of industry, we recommend either other educational services or consulting. Typically, we don't like health and wellness coaching because of the fact that sometimes that falls into categories that might not suit us. Because sometimes if you put health and wellness coaching, some people might think, oh, that has to do with medical stuff and all this kind of stuff. So just because we have our definition of health and wellness coaching, the industry might have their own definition. So we want to kind of stay away from that. And then business website, you're going to see here, this is the reason why we actually have the business website set up prior to this, so that way you can have a link to be able to put over here. And then finally, you have product description that goes along right over here. Now, this is going to be very important for you to note, okay? Payment processors do not like trigger words that are high risk, okay? That's what they're filtering out for. The reason why they're asking these questions is to filter you out if you're a high risk business, which we're not. And so we have to make sure that we communicate properly to the payment processors, right? And so we want to make sure things like, hey, medical related or weight loss medical or something, all those are triggering words, right? And so we don't want to go ahead and do that. We're ethical, and we just want to make sure that we are presenting ourselves in the proper way. And so just as an example product description that you could use if you want to, we've gone ahead and included that in the actual guide. One-on-one wellness coaching and education. Provide wellness coaching online to clients who want to live a healthier lifestyle. We process clients immediately at checkout with member agreements in place, right? So that's just an example of what you could use to enter right here if you actually wanted to do so, okay? So that is going to be the business detail side of things. And then if we actually go here to single member LLC, we're going to go ahead and see that it looks very, very similar to that entire process on here as well. So legal business name, that's going to be what is registered with the actual state. Of course, EIN number for an LLC is going to be a requirement. That's going to be in the packet that our partner gives you, business website, and then product description. So everything else pretty much stays the same. Then we go ahead and go over to business representative. This is going to be the legal name of the person, which is going to be yourself, your email address, your date of birth, your home address, your phone number, and then the last 4 of your social security number. That, of course, is pretty standard in terms of just verifying your identity. After that, we're going to go ahead and get into fulfillment details. Do you sell physical goods? The answer to that is going to be no, based off of remote wellness practices, right? Obviously, if you're setting this up for like an e-commerce store, which if you're in the program, I don't know why you are, but of course, that is a different matter. But I'm talking about, this is the tutorial for setting it up for remote wellness practice. On average, how long after customers are paying, typically do they receive the goods and services? That is going to be within 1 day, okay? And then you're going to go ahead and click on continue. Of course, because this is just an example, example, I am not clicking on continue, okay? In terms of public details, you can then come up with a statement descriptor that comes up on the bank statement of your customers, and then you can come up with a shortened descriptor as well, right? So just an abbreviation of your remote wellness practice name, customer service phone number, customer support address, all of those are just generic, general things that you can always change later as well, okay? From there, next up, what's going to happen is that you are going to go ahead and add and connect your bank to your actual Stripe processing. This is going to be the bank in which your funds are going to be sent to once they are processed via Stripe. And so it's very important to make sure that you have everything set up prior to this with your business bank account. So that way, as you are transacting, you're having all of this money go into your business bank account. You do not want to set this up going to your personal bank account. Do not do that. It's going to be messy and it's going to be terrible, okay? Do not do that. Very, 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 very important, okay? Now, other quick notes on here, okay? As you're typing in here, let's say, for example, you type something and then you're like, you know what? I'm not able to find the bank that I want to have, right? You can go ahead and manually add your bank account, which is a lot slower, but that is an option potentially if you want to do it. Or you can go ahead and contact their support team as well, okay? Obviously, Stripe is a multi-billion-dollar company. You will be able to go ahead and contact their support as well using that option. They have chat support, call support, email support, all of that good jazz, right? So you will be able to go ahead and use that link there to contact their support as well. From there, the next step after you go ahead and add your bank details is to go ahead and secure your account using two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is basically where you need to use your password as well as a text message code. That's going to be for extra security. Make sure you go ahead and get that set up. In terms of adding extras, right? So the first one on here is automating sales tax calculation. Of course, we don't have sales tax. This is for physical goods normally. So you're going to be able to click on no thanks. And then after that, if you want to go ahead and set up, showing customers that you care about your carbon footprint and, the climate and all that kind of stuff, you can go ahead and decide if you want to go ahead and donate to that, or you can go ahead and click on no thanks, okay? And then from there, you're going to go ahead and go to review and finish. And then from there, you're going to make sure that you go ahead and review and make sure everything is correct. Of course, this is just an example, but that is going to be where you go ahead and review everything, and then you go ahead and submit it. And then step number 6 on here is you're going to go ahead and wait for your account to get approved. And so depending on certain factors, this might take a few hours. It might take even a few days. You want to be patient, monitor your email address, and you want to go ahead and make sure that you are looking for updates. Now, number 7, you got to understand payment processor rules and staying in good standing. This is very important because it is possible to have your payment processor banned. Why? Because Stripe needs to verify that you are a legitimate organization because it is assessing your risk level. Because Stripe deals with the credit card companies directly. And so if a customer charges back on the credit card, what's going to happen is that the credit card company is going to refund the customer, right, for their money, and then they're going to go ahead and come to Stripe and ask for the money from Stripe, and then Stripe is going to ask you for that money, okay? And so what happens is that if Stripe gets a lot of chargebacks, it means that it is not good for Stripe, and it is not good a relationship for the credit card company as well, right? And so what ends up happening is that they're going to ban your account if you end up getting a lot of refunds, if they end up getting a lot of chargebacks. And so in order to make sure that your account remains in good standing with Stripe, you need to make sure that your refund percentage is below 5%, okay? And you need to make sure that your chargeback percentage, right? Somebody saying that this is a fraudulent payment is less than 1%. Now, these are just general guidelines, but what that means is that for each chargeback that you get, you have to process 100 good transactions in order to balance this out, okay? And so keeping yourself in good standing with your payment processor is one of the most important objectives of your business, because if you cannot process payments and collect cash, then you literally run out of oxygen in your business. And so it's going to be very important that you are maintaining a good relationship with Stripe because they are the biggest payment processor. They are the easiest to use. You don't want your Stripe account to get banned because then all of a sudden your options or your easy options become a lot more limited. Okay, so as you are waiting for your account to get approved, make sure that you are doing everything above ground. You're doing everything legitimately. You're being ethical. And so that way you are able to stay in good standing with Stripe. And then finally, step number 8 is that once your Stripe account gets approved, you can then move on to the next part of this training, which is about setting up your payment terminal,